There we go. Yes, Nandi. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Strangely, you are. I am quite impressed. Most people will say Nandi and all kinds of Americanisms, but Nandi, yeah, just Nandi straight.
Okay, now I guess it helps that we're Dutch. And the thing is that one of the most striking things that I've picked up on about you for the past couple of years, following you on Facebook particularly, has been that you are actively trying to be present. You're actively present in your ministry and trying to do that by, being in the social space, social media space with pictures and bringing people along in your life, showing them that life is worth living, but also bringing in so many insightful and difficult topics, like mental health, well-being, and particularly during the pandemic that, grew out into this amazing podcast. So yes. I will start with giving my compliments. Wow.
Thank you. Praise God. Wow. We praise God.
That is just amazing. And I'm really proud that you're one of us. But for those of us that have not met you and have not been, privileged to pick up on the podcast that you are running, as well as seeing your pictures and life, what's the one thing that you feel that we should know about you? What's the one thing that we who don't know you should really know about Nandi?
I'm a very down-to-earth person, so I'm being very personal now. I'm not talking about ministry orientated, but I'm a very down-to-earth person. I like relaxing. I like just being me. I can put on a very good formal face when it comes to leading the church and doing ministry and things like that. But I like being real. I like being genuine. And so even in my ministry experience, because of what I do what we would call in South Africa study lines, practical theology. So I like being practical. I like getting down to business.
That's right up my alley, I have to admit, because I'm quite pragmatic myself. And I think that life is complicated enough. It doesn't need to be complicated. But we've seen that now we are recording the interview and there's not going to be a lot of space for that particular interaction. When it comes to this pandemic, it has had an impact on everybody. How are you now? Okay. Now that there's a vaccine coming out of South Africa, congratulations. And now that, we're 2 years on as a world, how are you doing personally, and how are you doing as a leader?
So for myself, COVID-19, I think for everybody was kind of like just this shock. We didn't know what to expect, what it was. It was quite scary right in the beginning. I think South Africa is one of the countries that had the longest lockdowns. As a matter of fact, we're still in some kind of lockdown, if they want to call it lockdown. It's never been completely lifted or anything like that. And so in the beginning, when it was quite new and quite scary, and we had like an extreme lockdown where basically we couldn't go to work, we couldn't do anything. I had just finished my internship work at a psychiatric clinic for 2 years, and I had just for about a year started doing for our conference pastoral counseling for the members and anybody that needed it. And I was basically doing it at the office in person, and that was my full-time job, just doing counseling. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like basically not jobless because I wasn't fired or anything, but how do you work when you're doing in-person counseling? Yes. In a pandemic where you're not allowed to go to work? You have to work from home. And so most pastors were able to work from home because they were able to do online sermons and everything went online for them. And I was like, what do I do? Because I was very scared, frightened to do online counseling because there are all kinds of laws that regulate how you do it and what you're allowed to do and, that type of thing. And I hadn't been trained in it. And so for a long time, I was worried because I was like, how long is this lockdown going to last? It's supposed to last 3 weeks. And it didn't last 3 weeks.
No,
And
so you did it. And particularly because you have such a vulnerable group that you work with, it must have been quite stressful.
Yes. So everybody was like, what now, Nandi? Like, we're in the middle of you helping us with our mental well-being. How are we going to continue? And I believe everything that happened for a reason. And I believe that God led quite wonderfully. It was actually inspired by one of my colleagues, because our conference started doing morning worships where they would send out audio recording worships to the staff to listen to, because we couldn't meet in person anymore for our morning worships. And I myself, why can I not do the same for my counseling clients? I might not be able at this stage to do counseling for them, but I can still encourage them in their mental well-being and give them tips and help and things like that, you know, that can just uplift them until the lockdown is over.
Yes.
So this was supposed to be like maybe a 3-week or a 3-month venture into something beautiful.
Yes.
And it turned out
gig.
a complete ministry change for me. Like, it was just a complete revolution. Like, and I thank God for all the ideas he gave me, because at first I just sent it out to my counseling clients, and then I gave them the option of whether they wanted to receive these audios or not. So I didn't just do a podcast. I didn't start with a podcast.
No, you didn't.
I started with sending out audio mental health talks on WhatsApp. So I would ask the people, do you want it on WhatsApp in the morning? I would send it to them on WhatsApp. And then people were saying, but can we share this with other people? And I was like, sure. You know, if they want me to send it to them, put them on the broadcast list, tell them to let me know. And so what I did is I created this little advertisement that said, if you want to receive these audio worships on WhatsApp, just send the word yes to, and then my number. Yeah. And people from all over the world started sending me.
I saw that advert. I saw the advert and I thought, that is so amazing that you are able to make the most of this space and cater to that need. Because, I mean, to be honest, in my pastoral training, it was only limited when it comes to counseling and pastoral care, pastoral psychology. I mean, I had modules, but obviously due to your training specifically, not only as a chaplain, but also because you had in-house internship in the psychiatric facilities, it's amazing that you were able to step into this gap.
And there was a gap specifically because of COVID, because everybody was stressing, everybody was completely anxious, completely depressed. You know, people were losing their jobs, their marriages were on the brink of breaking up, because now they're stuck in a home with each other 24/7 and they don't know what to do with each other. And I mean, yes, we're sort of now not in a lockdown anymore. People are going back to work. We're still wearing masks. There's the vaccine, there's this, there's that. But at the end of the day, people are still subscribing. I used to do for a time being 5 talks. Actually, I started with 7 talks a week. I literally broadcast every day. And then it went to 5, because obviously then I started doing online counseling. I realized I had to start doing online counseling. And then I started uploading the talks onto podcasts, because I realized there was actually interest in it. I thought there would be no, people were just sharing this left, right, and center. And I was like, okay, so clearly there's a need.
No, but the fact is that you didn't only decide to apply your skills in a different manner, but you also were open to shifting into being available to a wider range of people. That means that there's been an expansion of your influence as a leader and as a counselor, of course. But which skills did you have to apply to be able to cope? Because this is a lot of changes in a short period of time.
Yes, so I mean, maybe I'm not going to answer in the way that you're expecting me to answer it, but the first thing that I would say, it might not be leadership skills, but I had to start being very creative online in learning IT. And I mean, I started doing videos as well and actually producing my own videos. I used a producer for a while, but I started doing it myself. And so I had to learn a lot of new skills. I think leadership skills probably that came to the forefront is being independent and inventive. And because I couldn't just go to that shop or to that person and say, hey, how do you do this? Because we were on lockdown. So I had to figure everything out myself. I had to just work with what I have. And what I had was a cell phone and a sock.
Cell phone and a sock.
So the sock was to put over the microphone. You don't hear the plosives, because people were complaining that they were hearing the plosives. And I was like, what can I do? And my brother said, put a sock over your phone. And I was like, well, I have a sock. So I put a sock over my phone.
Cell phone with a sock over it. Well, I guess I wish somebody had told me that. I guess this proves that I've got 2 sisters and no brothers, because it could have been useful considering the amount of recordings that we had to do when it comes to sermons and presentations. But when so to you, your leadership skill that had to really come in full-blown presence was being inventive.
Very.
But does this mean that this period has changed you? Do you feel that these 2 years have changed you?
Definitely. I think I've gone from being a follower to being a true leader, in the sense of I don't wait anymore for people's permissions or opinions regarding whether something should be done or could be done. I took the courage to say, I've prayed about it. I believe the Lord is leading me. And we don't have the time or the luxury to consult with 20, 30 people. Things need to happen now. Get it going, believe that God is leading you, and put the product out there. So no, definitely.
Wow. So you're basically telling me that you've turned brave.
Yes, for sure.
Trust me, there's nothing wrong with being brave, but where do you feel that the leaders that you have were good to you? Is it that they gave you the space to bring this courage out in practice, and they gave you the room to have this output? Or is it that they gave you advice on how best to do it or to approach it? How were you being led as a leader?
That's a very difficult question to answer without being too open, but I'll try and answer it to the best of my ability.
Okay, fair enough.
So in terms of what I do, when I left the psychiatric clinic and I started working within the conference didn't really know what to do with me, because they had never had a pastoral counselor before. Before that, I was doing chaplaincy work. And I left the psychiatric clinic and they were like, what are we supposed to do now, Nandi? And I said, well, use me for what you trained me. Yeah. And they were like, we don't have a budget for that. You know, we in congregational pastors. The fact that you were even a chaplain was a luxury, you know. It's not a priority always, you know, in terms of, you know, when there's a budget constraint, you know, you do that because it's necessary. And the fortunate thing was, because I'm a female pastor, there isn't always room for female pastors of congregations, unfortunately. And I never really wanted to be a congregational pastor. And they were like, Nandi, what are we supposed to do now? You know, they didn't say it blatantly, but it's like, the churches are not an option. Are you going to go back into chaplaincy? And I said, no. I said, I'm not going back into chaplaincy. I've been trained for a specific role. I'd like to, you know, hone in on those skills. So you asked how, and so because I got into this space almost by, I'm going to say by accident, but I don't believe it was by accident. I believe it was by God's providence. I believe God uses our weaknesses to bring out that which he needs, and he knows that his people need. And I mean, I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be here, but it's something that I, in my heart, desired, and God has brought it to the front. And so when you ask who led me, how did they lead me? I kind of think because they didn't know what to do with me and they didn't really understand the role which I was now taking on, I became sort of like just, well, Nandi, you do what you need to do. So
awesome. So they gave you space. They gave you room to explore and see. Well, you know, I commend your leaders for having done that, because I can see where your expertise, your insights, your knowledge, and obviously your dedication, your energy, and the phone and the sock made the difference to so many people. And it is very exciting for me to to figure out with you which way, not just me as a pastoral leader, but you can impact our viewers, because we've got viewers that are in the medical field. We've got people who are currently engaging the conversation based on administrative work and background. We know that there's a couple of teachers that are going to be watching later on when school is out. We recognize that we want to address leadership at a broader from a broader perspective, not just as ministers. And so I'm wondering to what extent you can share with us and with our viewers basic leadership principles, maybe 2 or 3 leadership principles that have really, been the drive, been the supporting factors for your leadership. What are the 2 or 3 principles that you apply on a day-to-day basis?
So when you say leadership principles, I heard you say to one of the speakers earlier that English is not their first language. So I'm thinking to myself, what exactly are you asking when you say leadership principles? And so I'm going to answer to the best of my ability what I think you're referring to. In my mind, leadership principles that have helped me would be to be a trailblazer, to not be scared to try that which seems scary. I mean, be a trailblazer. Just if God has pressed something on your heart, do it. Even though it seems weird and strange, just do it. Be a trailblazer. I would say, don't be scared of being creative. I think a lot of times as leaders, we look at other people and we follow their example because that's what's worked. That is what, I'm thinking even within the church, you take maybe a position, maybe that someone else has been in before, and you just copy them. You're a copycat. You don't have creativity. You're not inventive. And it's not necessarily that you're not, but you're scared to use it. And so the thing that you mentioned earlier is to be brave, to step out and say, you know what, if it's a flop, it's a flop. I'm going to keep trying. I'm just going to keep trying. Leadership skill. I don't know if this is a skill, but be a good leader, you have to be connected to God. Everything that I've done, it wasn't me. It was not me.
Okay.
I mean, right now I'm back at work. I'm doing counseling. I'm doing a lot of stuff. And I look back at doing 7 talks a week that were good quality. And I'm like, where did that come from?
Yes.
Where did it come from where you can do 7 mental health talks in a week for months?
Yes.
For months.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's God. And so to have that relationship with God is the most important thing.
Oh, well, the program is called Taking Notes. And I think that, daring to be a trailblazer is one thing that a lot of people, we discuss when it comes to leadership, and these are definitely principles. A lot of people confuse leadership with management. And a lot of people believe that, when you've been placed in a position, you're just supposed to do what you're paid to do. Whereas each of us are leaders in our own right and in our own space. If I have a 18-year-old with Down syndrome, and she is a leader in this house. Because she's the one who decides for us who's going to be the one cooking. And that's not management. She really weighs it off. On her way back from school, she assesses and checks with me. Is Dad at work or working from home? Corbin, so her brother should be at school, her cousin should be at school, and I'm supposed to go online, right? Mom is supposed to go online tonight. Okay, so Papa en ik gaan koken. Papa and I are cooking. So she then, is the one arranging and planning and sorting it out. And when we bring our perspective to it, she would say, no. Mama can't cook today because she has, two appointments. So no, kind of like bringing that directive. And even though she may not speak fluently and she may obviously not be able to obtain high academic results, as the cardiologist informed us when she was diagnosed, we can see in her the person that looks after our well-being in this home. And so being a leader in her own right, I also see this whole notion of daring to step up to that plate. And I think that a lot of people will connect to that.
May I add too, the one that I was just thinking of is dream big.
Oh, why?
Why? Dream
big. Why?
Why?
I really mean it. Why do you feel that people should dream big as leaders?
Because we limit ourselves so unnecessarily. We have a God who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. How resources, you look at and you say, I have a phone in a sock. You know how many people ask me, wow, does the NCSA have a studio that you're recording at? And I'm like,
I thought you had a studio. I thought you had a studio. I really did.
I've never been in a studio up until today. I've never been in a studio, not one. And so the thing is, we limit ourselves because of our resources. And we say, I'm not going to start because I'm going to wait for the situation to be perfect. I'm going to wait for the budget to be available. And I mean, COVID didn't give us budgets. It was budget cuts. And so you got to make do with what you have at hand and say, I'm going to dream big, but even though the dream is there and I can't have the dream right now, I'm going to hold on to that dream, and whatever small things I can put in place to eventually get to that dream, I'm going to do. I mean, at the moment, I'm busy doing a website. I'm busy.
That's going to be my closing question. What's next for Nandi Fleming? What's next for you? Oh, amazing leader. Do tell. What's up? What are you doing?
So at the moment, we're busy building a website. The audio talks are now also available on podcast, WhatsApp. It is on video as well. There's not a lot of them yet. I think there's like 8 or 9 that's been put into a video production with like pictures in the background. It's not me talking with my funny face. I don't like having my face on something.
What's wrong with your face?
And so we're busy building a website. The talks are going to be printed in, so far it's going to be a magazine format, so that each year it can be released in a magazine. We'll eventually start online support groups. That's something that's somewhere in the future. We want to do online support groups. We're going to release DVDs, audios. All the audios will be available on like a disc, or nowadays you get these little USB sticks. So if somebody wants to talk in their car and listen to it while they drive. So it's just basically, it's the same thing, but making it available in different formats for different people. And just growing the Ministry of Counseling. We're looking at other counselors to become involved in, building a brand, if you want to call it that. I call my department, which is not really a department, but you see, this is the thing with what I meant with dreaming big. So in my conference, I am not officially a departmental head. I'm just work at the conference, and I entitled my little place the NCSA Pastoral Counseling Department, but I am the only one in the department. There's no one else.
I think it's awesome. I would say put it on the door, sis. Put it on the door.
It's there.
I think it's amazing. I'm adding dream big and don't limit yourself to the long list of quotes that we're most likely going to put on taking notes, t-shirts and hoodies, because we are learning. I mean, we both Tabitha and myself, we really are trying to harness a bit of the information and experiences that you all have endured and undergone over the past couple of years, hoping to inspire and motivate others. And I really want to thank you for this impromptu interview video. And I really hope that you will continue the work you've started. And I am gonna try to put some of these amazing principles to use in my own ministry. Thank you very much, Nandi. And hopefully till soon again. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Nandi. Yes. The funny thing is that yeah, can you hear me? I pressed the wrong button earlier. I was supposed to stop recording.